Hello everyone, welcome once again to my channel. It's your boy Luis Portelles, and for today's episode of Extraordinary Talks, I have a very special guest, one that you guys have been requesting for the longest time. And I know that I said that very often, but truthfully, this is one of the most requested guests ever. I am talking about Binibining 14, representing Davao del Sur, Miss Justine Felizarta. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the conversation that we had about so many things, going from pageants locally, internationally, her recent surgery, and her advocacy. I also threw a few little fun questions in there for you, but you will have to watch the video in order to find them. As usual, the only thing that I'm gonna ask from you is that if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like so that it gets recommended to more people. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one almost every single day. And let me know in the comment section, what did you think about Justine, the things that she had to share with us, my questions, anything that you want to express. And most importantly, don't forget to support Justine as well. So please go ahead, follow her on social media, show her some love, tell her that I sent you. And that's pretty much it, my friends. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of Extraordinary Talks. I will see you with Justine right after the intro.
Be strong.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Extraordinary Talks. And just like I promised you, here I have her, the beautiful Justine Felizarta. How are you, my dear?
I am doing very well. I'm excited to be here as well. As I said before, because you're a fellow Canadian and I've heard so much about you. So I'm just looking forward to this interview with you.
Oh, well, really, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for accepting. And I'm really, really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have today. So many points that we're going to be touching. Let's talk about a little bit about the recent health scare that you had. And let me ask you, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
Right now, in comparison to almost 3 weeks now, when my surgery happened, I am feeling better just because I'm more mobile now. I can walk on my own and I feel like the pain has gone down, or the discomfort, which is really good because I'm the type of person that likes to get up and do things. So when I was in bed rest, I was actually going a little bit crazy because I didn't like asking people to tell them what to do to help me out. But that's what I needed to do. And so far, because the swim presentation has just finished and our NAT cost taping has finished, I do have a little bit more time to recover before the finals night. So that's what I'm doing. So hopefully by July 11, I'll be, swaying my hips even more than what I could before.
I am sure that you will be on your A game because, girl, what we saw already during the swimsuit competition, we're all going crazy about it. I feel like this recent surgery, by the way, for those who are not aware, might be living under a rock, you had to get surgery recently.
Yes.
How long did you have to recover between the surgery and the moment that the swimsuit presentation was filmed?
Actually, this surgery was an emergency surgery. I did not expect this in my journey at all, that this would happen, because when I was training, I felt a little bit of pain and discomfort, but I kind of pushed it away because it felt like a pain that I felt before, and that medicine could obviously fix it. But when that didn't work, my boyfriend, he was the one who pushed me to go to the ER just to get checked because he knew that I was in a lot of pain at that time. So when I went to the ER, they did a CT scan, and that's when I found out that they found a 15-centimeter cyst. So she compared it to a baby's head or a pomelo, which is a fruit here in Davao. So it's pretty big. And I couldn't believe it myself because I'm like looking at my body, like, where does this fit? Like I didn't even feel it. I don't see it. And so the doctor told me that if I didn't have it removed, it could be even worse. And I might not even make it to the finals night in terms of performing my best and recovering. So in a way, it was kind of sad to hear at the time because I knew Binibini was so close and we worked so hard for it. But if I didn't do it, then maybe, things might happen differently for me. So within 48 hours, I had to do the surgery, and it was an open surgery.
Wow.
So my family didn't even know until the day before my surgery that I had to do it. The only people who knew were my friends here and my boyfriend. And I really had to make the quick decision. And the pageant just was out of my mind, because of course my health would have to come first. So when I did the surgery, the doctor said the recovery period is around 4 to 6 weeks. And I didn't have 4 to 6 weeks because the pageant was literally 2 weeks away from my surgery. And, I was crying so much because I'm like, why is it happening to me? I don't understand. Like, it's been almost 2 years. I've been waiting for this and I've trained so hard. But again, I tried to look at the bright side and I just tried to recover as much as I could. She gave me clearance to walk slowly every single day, which would help with my mobility. Took my meds. I did every single step I did to get better. And luckily, by the week and a half after, I was able to kind of move on my own. And my mentors were sure not to train me at all. They actually paused all my training. They were like, if we're going to push you to do the press presentation, we want to make sure that you have all your energy and that you're actually okay. We don't want to risk it, which is really nice on their part. But me being me, I was so adamant on like, I want to train right now. I can walk. But my doctor was like, you shouldn't even be in heels, you know?
Exactly.
So I was just really happy and really lucky that I was able to perform the way I did during then. And I did have the right pain medication and the clearance from the doctor that was able to do it. So I just went out there, the adrenaline got to me, and I just did what I did. So
Amazing, amazing. And I can only imagine being in that situation, right? When you have such an important moment coming up that you've been preparing for years, and
yes.
then having this happen to you. But I feel like ultimately you made the right decision, which is to go with your health. Always make it a priority, right? Because I mean, beauty pageants and all, you're still you're still able to compete if, you know, anything happens and you were not able to make it to this one. But health comes first, because without health, what are we going to do without it? In between this 2 weeks window that you had between the surgery and then the swimsuit presentation, how did you prepare for it? Because obviously you were not able to be very physical and practice too much. So was it more like a mental work or?
Yes, definitely everything was more a mental preparation and getting more mental fortitude, prepping to the day up to it, you know, because I was getting a lot of phone calls and messages. Of course, people wishing me well. And I couldn't hold back tears every time I heard someone, oh, you know, you don't have to do this. There's always another path. There's always another dream that you could follow. And in my head, I was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not giving up on this dream. I'm just going to take it slowly. But luckily, again, you know, I was able to do it with the rest that I had. And I was just reading books. I was trying to motivate myself and surround myself with my friends and family who really believed in me as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a role model, girl. So inspiring. We obviously, I mean, I was looking at some of the topics right after the swimsuit competition. And truth be told, I cannot think of a vlogger who did not have you within the top 10. So I feel like you went there, surgery and all, recovering and all, and you gave you 150%. So we're so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
And yes, and I feel like people now look up to you as an example of inspiration, resilience.
But honestly, like when I saw those top picks, I was also so shocked because this was taped, the swimsuit presentation, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we had one chance to give it our best angles and everything. And actually during the rehearsals, I wasn't feeling well because it was the first time I was wearing heels, being able to passerella. So when I did that and I saw the stairs, I was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, right? So during the finals night or the taping night or day, that was the first time I tried on the swimsuit, the first time I played with the sarong or the wings that we had. And it was quite challenging, as you saw. And on top of that, trying to have my game face on and having my walk on point. So during the taping day, I was like, you know what, you were given a second chance, just give it your best. But after that, honestly, like I don't even remember what I did. So as an overthinker, I was like, did I smile enough? Did I move my hips enough? Was I playing with my hair too much? And during the time that they were airing it live, I was like, oh my God, I can't watch it. I was so nervous. I was telling my team, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to be on social media because I don't want to disappoint anybody. And, you know, it's just being hard on myself at that time.
Yeah.
And when I saw myself, I actually teared up because I was like, wow, I cannot believe that I was able to hurdle over that. And when that response came over saying that I was one of their top picks, I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
Everyone was amazed by your performance. Actually, as a matter of fact, just right before this interview, I was texting one of my friends and I was like, I'm going to interview Justine Felizarta. He is not familiar with beauty pageants at all. Like he has no clue. And he was like, which one is that? And then he was like, I think he looked you up on Instagram and he was like, oh, the fierce one. So
oh, that's so sweet. I love that I'm being remembered for that.
yeah,
that's awesome.
absolutely. You mentioned earlier that you're actually my fellow Canadian.
Yes.
So from what I understand, you moved to Canada. So you were born in the Philippines, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yes.
then you moved to Canada with your family. And then here in Canada, you were able to study. You became an accomplished professional.
Mhm.
What a lot of people will consider to be the American dream. Can you tell me what made you want to go back to the Philippines?
Well, when I moved to Canada, I didn't have any recollection as to why we were even moving because we had a
Right.
pretty comfortable life here. My parents had their own business and all of their family was here. So it felt more natural that we were here.
Mhm.
But growing up, of course, they explained to us that the reason why we moved is because they wanted us to have better education, more opportunities for us to do anything we want pretty much when we get older. And when I was old enough and I saw pageants and I saw the platform, I wasn't into pageants growing up. Like being a beauty queen was not a dream that I had in mind at 6 years old, you know? Um, so when the first time I watched a pageant was Miss Universe 2005, Natalie Glebova, our Canadian Miss Universe. So she really inspired me at the time, but I was really young. So I was like, she's so young. She's able to accomplish this at that age. She's so confident on that stage. And who knows what else she can do after this platform. So that kind of motivated me into seeing what pageants are like. And because I know the Philippines are on a different radar when it comes to pageants in terms of training, support, the national pageant on its own, it's like the Olympics here. I
Right.
wanted to go big or go home. So I was like, you know what? I'm a full Filipina. I don't see anything wrong going back. And I've modeled before. I can communicate well. So I kind of thought that I had the skills and potential to be a beauty queen. So
Mhm.
that's why I went back home because I wanted to see what opportunities it could bring me. And I also really wanted to rediscover my roots as a Filipina because I really left at a young age that I didn't know much about where I really grew up. And I wanted to know how the Philippines is, how I can help people, you know, growing up abroad and how I can bring that back as well. And just to get to know my family even more. So I kind of saw that as an opportunity to do both, to pursue my passion and to also rediscover my roots as a Filipina and really strengthen my identity.
Exactly. I love that because you were able not only to connect with that part of your identity, like you said, that sometimes as immigrants, you know, when we go to a different country, you learn to kind of like adapt yourself to the culture of this new place.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
sometimes in the process, you get, of course, like what your parents are able to give you about the cultures back in the country
Mhm.
or whatever, you
Yes.
know, things we share at home. But it's important to also know your identity yourself and to explore that.
Mhm.
It's a win-win
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly. That's why my parents are always so um, sure when it comes to speaking Tagalog at
Mhm.
home. They,
Yeah,
as much as possible, they don't want us to lose the language
yeah,
because, of course, that's part of who I am and that's part of our roots.
yeah,
Which is really nice that my parents pushed us to do that. As hard as it is growing up, I'm
yeah,
so glad because now that I'm back in the Philippines, I can actually communicate and understand the language here and have that connection as well.
exactly. Very special. And I can definitely relate to that as well. I'm from Cuba originally, and then I moved here to
Wow,
Canada.
yeah.
Every single time that I would say something in English or French, because I live in Montreal, so here is like French is a thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
My dad will grab the slipper and he was like, "You're gonna talk
yeah.
in Spanish."
That's so funny. I could definitely relate to that. Oh my God. But can you speak full French?
Yeah, I have to
Oh,
speak French
wow.
on a daily
That's
basis.
awesome. Awesome.
What would you say is the biggest difference between Canada and the Philippines in any aspect?
In any aspect, well, of course, Canada is a melting pot of so many different cultures, you know, and I think that's what makes us stand out as a country. Because when people hear Canada, you don't really know what to pinpoint, like what culture to pinpoint, right? So when people go there, you really bring out the best of your culture because you're always talking about it, and people are always interested to learn and widen their perspective on the traditions, the cultures, how they can assimilate. And in the Philippines, of course, we also have that very family oriented community, which I really love because, of course, like you may know that our Christmases start here in September. Super, super early, but we're just so into it. But when the big holidays come in, we're always about gatherings, making sure that we see our family members. And we're very hospitable, things like that. So, in both ways, they're both rich in diversity,
Yeah.
but I just love that we both always celebrate our cultures.
Amazing. I love that. So what have you learned, if anything, from being an immigrant yourself?
Is to be open-minded.
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me because, growing up, you're so used to a certain way. Your parents instill in you knowledge from your country. But when you become an immigrant, in order for you to be comfortable in that place that you're in, you really have to be open-minded. You can't just be stuck in where you are because
Yeah.
otherwise you won't be able to adapt. So slow, like I'm not saying you have to do it right away, but slowly but surely you have to learn other people's cultures and
Mhm.
embrace it as well so that we can actually communicate together. And I think that for me is the biggest lesson growing up as an immigrant. And that's how I made friends as well. Because, you become so shy because I didn't grow up speaking English very, very well.
Mhm.
But then people understood that because there's other people who grew up from other countries. And I think just sharing stories with one another really brought us closer together and just learning and just wanting to learn about each other.
Absolutely. And I can relate to that as well. I feel like so many of the things that you're describing are not only my experience as well moving here to
Mhm.
Canada, but I know for a fact that so many people all around the world can relate to this type of stories.
Exactly. And it takes so much courage to be an immigrant because you're really stepping out of your comfort zone, to be in a new place, to try new things, to make new friends so that you can make it your home, right? And then a couple of years after, you're going to look back and you're like, I'm so glad I did that. And like these hardships that I've gone through is what made me who I am. And now I can say I've lived the best of both worlds.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Well, now let me talk to you a little bit about the pageant, Justine.
Yes.
So you have competed in Binibining Pilipinas 2015. You
Yes.
competed in Miss Universe Canada 2017. And
Mhm.
now you're back to Binibining Pilipinas 2021. What is it
Yes.
that keeps you coming, girl?
Honestly, the first time I joined, I had no idea what pageants were all about other than what I've watched on the TV.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I saw that I had the potential and the skills to do so. So I came into it a bit more confident. But when I got here in the Philippines and they told me that the training consists of passerella, Q&A, styling, working out, it's a whole package.
Mhm.
I kind of freaked out because I thought I was just going to get into the pageant, do my thing, and then hopefully win.
Yeah.
So in the Philippines, that's not the case. You train for about 6 months before they even let you go on stage. And our mentors are sure that if you're not ready, they're not going to let you compete. And that's what happened to me the first time around. I was a bit too young because I left Canada to compete when I was just finishing high school. So I was turning 19 and they thought that I had the potential, but then they didn't think that I was set to do the biggest pageant here in the Philippines. And they wanted to give me more experience and more training, which I was really, really appreciative of because they really taught me the backbone of what pageants are really like and how to be the beauty queen that they want me to be.
Mhm.
So first time around was actually more of like a learning experience for me. So seeing what Binibining Pilipinas is like, how the girls are like, and how I can make myself stand out even more. So I didn't really, of course, we all expected to win, but for me, when I didn't win, I was kind of like, you know what, this is a learning experience for me. And I thought that a few years down the road, I definitely want to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what I had in mind. So when I went back to Canada, I wanted to make sure I finished my studies as a medical esthetician. And I wanted to have more maturity, experience, because I've seen like, I competed with Pia and she was 26 at the time. It
Yeah.
was her third pageant and she had so much wisdom that I think that's what made her really win because she knew who she was already. And win or lose, she knows what she was standing for. And that's exactly what I wanted if I ever did it again. But because I already did Miss Philippines 2015, I saw the opportunity to do Miss Universe Canada because why not, right? Like it's more experience for me and more people, and people are telling me, why don't you give it a try? You never know,
Yeah.
and you already had the experience. And it was so different because in the Philippines I had a team guiding me and I really depended on them. But in 2017, because I was already trained so rigorously by them, I was like, maybe I can do this as an independent. And in Canada you don't really have that training system the way Philippines does, so it was more relaxing for me in a way because I felt like I was doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And when you go into Miss Universe Canada, you're differing with so many different ethnicities that I felt like I was already in an international pageant. So I guess that's a really good combination of experiences. And then now that I'm in Miss Binibining Pilipinas 2021, I feel like I'm so ready with everything that I've learned, everyone that I've met, and I'm kind of just ready to go and do my very best.
I feel like pageantry in Canada and the Philippines is like completely the
So
opposite,
different, yes.
right? I feel like personally, I don't know, but in Canada, there's not really a culture of pageants. Like even
Mhm.
when something big happens, like I don't know, they crown like a new Miss Universe Canada or something, you don't really see it like on the media, like the newspapers and stuff like that. They might, like give it a little spot here and there, but in the Philippines, it's like they go big for their beauty queen.
Yes, yes, they really are. But Canada, when I joined Miss Universe Canada, though, the difference was they really honed the girl to be a spokesperson.
Yeah.
So a lot of our activities were closed door interviews,
Mhm.
interviews with judges on stage, and it's more so how you can carry yourself as an ambassador. And
Yeah.
that's why we were all required to do our own charity event. So that was really cool because I've never done or organized a charity event from the scratch.
Yeah.
So the stress of it all, or like just trying to be creative and how to raise money for advocacies, really helped me in becoming more mature, I guess, and how to be a leader.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, I feel like this goes back to saying that sometimes, even if you don't make it to the final or if you don't get the crown that you were hoping for, you still learn from the experience. And you can apply that now if you get to where you want to go or like any event that you want to plan, a charity, whatever, you got the
Mhm.
experience. You can use that. Right.
Exactly.
All right. So I wanted to ask you, because precisely you have national experience competing in a pageant, but you also have international experience. Do you feel that that's something that plays in your advantage or that adds pressure to the expectations that people have of you?
It's a bit of both for sure.
Mhm.
Because of course, when you're competing and people know your history on where you've competed and what you've done, people have the expectation that, oh, she knows what she's doing already, so she can only get better from there, right? And I think that it's also an advantage for me because it gives me more confidence. Again, with the skills in my back pocket, I know what to expect, I know how to adapt, and I know how to grow from this. So I guess in a way, I love that I was able to compete in national pageants because I feel more mature and I feel like a woman that's ready to compete and that I know who I am now.
Hmm, exactly. I love that. What would you say is the biggest difference between Binibining Pilipinas when you first competed and now in 2021?
The biggest difference I think is social media, the blow up of having to campaign on your own social media is really big now as compared to 2015 because back then we didn't really have that pressure to keep posting to campaign in that way. We
Yeah.
kind of just went to the the activities, which was 3 months long, and we weren't expected to do that. And people would just really support you. But then now, because social media has gotten so big, we really have taken the advantage of showing who we are through it, what we like, and how to we get supporters from it as well, right? So it's a little bit new for me from the very start. It was kind of rough for me because I wasn't really into social media as well, but I knew that it could be an advantage of how I can connect with people even more. So along the way, that was definitely one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the biggest takeaways for this pageant and learning how to, I guess, make it the most in my journey.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of an advantage because to a certain extent it brings more visibility to the girls, but also it's easier for the fans to have access to the information. I feel like Binibinibg Pilipinas is putting a lot of effort in coming up with material and showcase, like the girls and what they can do, what
Yeah,
they're capable of. But there are so many candidates and there's only so much you can do, so much, that you can showcase of each one. So I feel like social
exactly.
media is a way for you to show what you have to offer as a candidate, as a beauty queen, but
Mhm.
also as a person. So
Exactly. And because now advocacies are so relevant in pageants, it helps you showcase what you actually do and how you can get people involved, which I think is a really great deal in when it comes to social media.
from what I've been able to gather, okay, talking to fans and looking at other blogger topics and here and there, I have this feeling that you truly are a fan favorite. And there are so many comparisons, about, for example, with Pia and like, so many amazing queens. Like we're not gonna get into the list because it's like endless, but
Yes.
there are very good comparisons out there and very high expectations. How do you
Mhm.
feel about this? Do you think it's flattering or an added layer of extra pressure?
I'm definitely flattered when I hear comparisons.
Uh-huh.
Like after the swimsuit presentation, I was being compared to Stephanie Gutierrez from Venezuela. And
Yeah,
then every now and then I get compared to the beauty queens here in the Philippines, Catriona and Pia. So the fact that they see that in me makes me feel a little bit more confident that I'm doing something right because it's that quality that made them win. And I do want to stand out from those comparisons as well. So, as much as possible, I'm trying to do my own thing, but it's always a boost of confidence for me when I hear that. And I don't see it as pressure because I know that these are the qualities that will help me win as well.
exactly, exactly. And at the end of the day, just like you said, these are all winners. So there's really no negative.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're the reason why I am the way I am because I've taken lessons from how they competed and how they went about it. So going through the journey, I knew that I wasn't alone in all of this and that if they can endure that, I can also do that as well.
I love that. Love it. What would it mean for you to be able to represent the Philippines on an international level?
It would be such a great deal, of course, not just for me, but for my province of Davao del Sur, and really just working towards this goal of mine of trying to shed more positive light in my community, my advocacies, and how I can stand on this platform and use it for the better.
Mhm.
And if I was able to really represent Philippines on an international stage, I think it would be such a dream come true because we've been working so hard for this. And when you represent the Philippines, you're really representing so many different cultures, so many different stories. And if I was able to do that, I promise that I will try to shine the light on them as much as possible.
Oh, I definitely understand that feeling. And I'm sure that you have what it takes to not only represent the Philippines internationally, but also to make them proud. So I really
Thank
hope that you're able to
you.
go all the way.
Yes, it's so, so close. July 11 is what, 3 weeks away.
Right
And
there.
even this morning, I was just thinking, how could this be so fast when all we wanted was more time and we've been waiting for this long. So these 3 weeks are definitely going to be a lot of crunch time, trying to mentally prepare and just enjoying it at this point.
Exactly. I feel like everyone, whenever they talk about you like winning a crown or like getting a title, they always talk about Miss Grand International. There's a lot of buzz about Miss Grand International, but I never actually saw footage of you talking about it. Like, is that the title that you really won? Because there are all the titles at stake, but everyone goes for like MGI.
I have been very vocal about it from the very beginning, just because with 4 titles at stake in Binibini. So, for those who don't know, it's Miss International, Miss Grand International, Miss Intercontinental, and Miss Globe.
Yeah,
So, those are the 4 titles that are up for grabs.
right.
And of course, with each title, you have to package yourself in a way where the judges or the organization can see you putting them at. And we really had to make sure that I had to package myself in a way that they will put me in that position. So when my mentors were telling me which crowns you want, I told them that I wanted Miss Grand International just because I see myself more fit for something more of a performance. And it kind of reminds me of a mixture of Miss Universe and Victoria's Secret. And I love the runway growing up as a model.
Yeah.
So it's something that I feel like I could really shine. And so that's why my mentors tried to package me that way. And every time people ask me, I'm already trying to manifest that this is the title that I want so that they do see it every time they're choosing the girls.
Just put it out there in the world, in the universe, and it will come.
Exactly. And I'm just so happy because people are actually responding in a way that they do see me in that pageant. So it means that I am doing something right. And hopefully the judges and the organization will also see that.
I wanted to ask you, I think it's important to also bring visibility to other ladies and, uplift women, because at the end of the day, I look at some of the candidates and this just feels like a sisterhood. Can you mention three ladies, without going too much into details, three ladies that are competing with you as of right now in Binibining Pilipinas 2021 that you look
Mhm.
up to or that you admire?
That's so hard because I know a lot of us have competed in pageants before, and really getting to know them, their stories, and how they grew up. We all developed a connection together. But I guess if I had to name three ladies, it's because we had kind of similar experiences in terms of doing a pageant all over again.
Yeah.
It would be Maureen Montaigne, Samantha Bernardo, actually, before she went to Miss Grand Philippines,
Yeah.
and also Samantha Panlilio, because she grew up in the States as well. So I guess we have that the same relatability, and that's how we became close.
And I love all of them. And you know, something that I always say when I make videos about beauty pageants, because sometimes it's a little touchy, you know, you are making topics and this and that, and sometimes like the fans are very passionate about it. And I always make
Mhm.
sure to tell them, guys, this is just my opinion, and I'm looking at like details when I have to come up with this list. It doesn't take away credit from anyone
Mhm.
or what they're capable of. All of these ladies, if they are there, I mean, like it's because they're amazing. There's no questioning that. So going forward on the competition, what's remaining of it? What can we expect from you? And of course, something that you can talk about. Don't get in trouble or anything. But what is your plan? What is your mindset for the rest of the competition?
Right now, it's really more so just trying to enjoy the process. I feel like I've done everything that I could leading up to it. Again, we've trained for Binibining Pilipinas for almost 2 years now. So there's only so much you can do in terms of your walk, your Q&A, your workouts, I guess, and your styling. But at this point, it's more so mentally preparing myself for that big night and just trying to remember how far I've come because, along the way we do forget that, and I try as much as possible to know that I've evolved so much. And even so, after this surgery, I know that I was given another chance and that I shouldn't overthink it, which is kind of hard for me because that's the type of person that I am. But I guess moving forward, what you could expect from me is that it'll just get better from what you saw during the swimsuit presentation, and of course trying to recover as much as I can, but just trying to live in the moment.
And I know that you can bring so much to the table, and already everyone is like blown away by your performance in the swimsuit. So I know that better
Yeah.
things are yet to come. If you tell us that you were really like trying your best with what you had at the moment during that competition, I can only imagine what you can bring to the table going forward.
Yes, and I'm super, super excited to start working again with my mentor because right now I'm not allowed to work out as per my doctor, which is kind of sad because that's usually my outlet on how I can, alleviate stress and of course developing a better body for the pageant night. But my mentors are really working with me and making sure that I still bring out the best for when it comes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your advocacy. I'm going to be fully transparent with you. When Binibining Pilipina released the videos about the advocacies on their Instagram page, I made a top list of the ones that I thought like were the one that I connected with the most.
Mhm.
And you were on that list. And it was a subject that honestly, I was kind of not expecting. I did not see it coming, but I think it's such an important subject that it
Mhm.
applies to the Philippines, but also it applies to the stories of so many immigrants all across the globe. So your advocacy is all about shedding light on the right and welfare of overseas Filipino workers.
Mhm.
What made you want to get involved in this in the first place?
When it came to choosing an advocacy or trying to use a platform for that reason, I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that I was speaking from my heart and speaking from experience because that's the best way I was going to help those that I can. So, because I grew up as an immigrant or with OFW parents, I knew or I saw the hardships that my parents really went through just to provide livelihood from us or for us. Just because, growing up in the Philippines, we did have a comfortable life, and I didn't really understand as to why they were giving all that up just to move to a country where they have no family, they didn't know, they didn't have any jobs. But when they explained to me that's because they wanted us to have quality education and for us to have that freedom of choosing opportunities when we grew up. And they really worked hard from the ground up to do that. So I know that it's not just them who does that for their family. And a lot of OFWs here in the Philippines do migrate abroad so that they can provide more livelihood for their kids back here.
Yeah.
And for my case, I was very lucky because I didn't have to be separated away from my family or my parents the way most OFWs are here in the Philippines. Because I know it's a crucial part growing up as a kid and being away from your parents. That's mentally it's going to be hard for them to have that connection growing up. So when I got this chance to choose an advocacy, that's definitely what I wanted to do. And then when I got here in the Philippines, I wanted to educate myself more as to what issues and concerns I could highlight so that I can bring it about to the public. And that's when I started volunteering with Center for Migrant Advocacy earlier on, before the pandemic started or before Binibini even started. So that's when I was able to actually speak to our OFWs and see how we can provide more for them. So we were able to do capacity building workshops. We were able to do roundtable discussions with government agencies, which gave me more confidence in speaking about it and knowing that there is a deeper root as to why they are having problems and still having problems to this day.
I see. And I think that to begin with, that was a very brave decision to go for this topic because once again, it's extremely important, but I feel like it's extremely complex because everyone's experience is not the same. So when you're trying to defend something like this, you are trying to come up with something that everyone will understand, but that
Mhm.
everyone might perceive differently. So
Yeah.
when I saw you defending this, I was like, okay, this girl is going somewhere with this. I need to,
Mhm.
watch out.
Like, yeah, and for again, like I'm not an expert at all at this topic, so as along the way I'm trying to learn from my mentors in CMA. And again, there is in the Philippines, it's either you are an OFW or you know of an OFW. So that's why I feel like a lot of people could relate. But for me, I guess the biggest challenge was trying to shed the light on the stories of those people as opposed to just talking about my own.
And to be honest, that's what really matters because at the end of the day, it's all about starting the conversation and then taking it from there. No one expects you to be an expert to come here with all the right answers and, somehow
Mhm.
solve like this world issue, right?
Exactly.
But the fact that you're trying, it just says a lot to everyone. So here, when you moved to Canada, did you ever experience some of these issues, whether yourself or any like family members? One of those situations that some of OFW experience when they move elsewhere.
Not so much in terms of what most OFWs go through, because when they go abroad, actually, a lot of them lack the education of what their rights are. So they don't really know who or where to go to when problems happen.
Yeah.
And when we were going to Canada, we were actually treated very well in terms of jobs, subsidies, and being able to have funds for kids under 18 as well. So I think that's what kept us afloat during the first couple of years before we became more stable.
Mhm.
However, I do have cousins and I do have family members who are abroad, who have gone to Dubai and have been treated badly by their employers as well, which is what you hear most of the time in the news. And what we do as an NGO in CMA is that they actually reach out to them to see how we can help them in terms of legality and how we can get them back to here in the Philippines, but still get livelihood as well. But I was just very lucky that my family, I guess, didn't have to go through that. I guess the biggest hardship was for them trying to go job to job and just trying to really provide for us so that we could sustain a life there in Canada.
Yeah, I completely understand. And in all fairness, right? I feel like Canada, we're not perfect by any means. We
Mm.
have lots of things that we need to work on. But to a certain extent, I feel like they try their best to help new immigrants and help them
Yeah.
adapt and integrate
Mhm.
themselves in the society. But I definitely hear, like horror stories from people all across the globe. And fortunately, you and your family did not have to go through that. Especially now with everything that's going on. This is kind of like an added layer of complexity. We've been talking a lot about Asian hate all across the
Mhm.
globe. And it's not only all the discrimination, the inequality that we hear about like all the time in the news, but now we also have this new wave of hate that for
Mhm.
me, it's really rooted in ignorance, in people not understanding things, sometimes lack of, education, racism. How do you think, and I don't expect you to have like an answer, like a precise answer for this, but how do you think we can help Filipinos or immigrants or people who are thinking of leaving their country, how can they
Mhm.
prepare for that move and be aware of what might be waiting for them on the other end?
If you really want to migrate abroad, you really have to educate yourself on the culture of where you're going. You
Yeah.
can't just go think about it on the day and then think you're going to fly the next day. A lot of our OFWs here, before they even go abroad, we have to go through a PEDO system, which is a pre-departure system of telling them about the culture, what to expect, the language, the agencies that they should go to if there's any problem that occurs. So
Yeah.
you really have to educate yourself about where you're going and knowing that migration is definitely not easy, and you have to make sure that you do secure a job going into it first. And when problems do happen, you have to make sure you know who and where to go to, because we obviously can't see what's happening there unless you let us help you and you tell us as well.
You were talking at some point about the government, and not to get political at all here, and I don't even expect you to like give your opinion on this, but I did want to mention that I do truly believe that it is the government's responsibility to a certain extent to look after the
Mhm.
well-being of its citizens, whether they are in the country or outside of it. So I'm glad
Yes.
that you were mentioning, that there are resources, that there are agencies that look after the Filipinos who are going to work overseas, just to make sure that at least we're putting chances on their end that they will be able to start with the right foot. I wanted to share, I don't normally get very personal on my channel, but when I heard you talking about this issue, I was really touched by it because I coming from Cuba, that economical situation is just insane, very, very difficult. And I grew up in Cuba until I was 14 years old, and then I left the country. I came here to Canada. But my dad actually left the country when I was 2 years old, and it took 9 years before I saw
Mhm.
my dad because he left the country in order to provide, to be able to help us financially. And
Yes.
he had to go through all sort of jobs, through all sort of, hardships in order to make it happen. And he finally did it. He was able to, to bring me here. He was able to help me get a degree, go through school, still helping my family in Cuba. And he was able to work on his field of study.
Mhm.
But I feel like my dad's story, it's exceptional because he was able to make it at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and he was able to help us. But so many
Mhm.
people don't get to that point. And
Yeah.
that's still happening today. And I'm glad that I see people like you that using your platform are still bringing awareness to these issues, because sometimes you might overlook it, but there's people out there who are struggling and they're just trying their best to, help their loved ones.
Exactly. And it's not a walk in the park being a migrant worker and overseas Filipino workers. A lot of people think that because you're working abroad, you're making so much more money already. And it's sad because some people do abuse that, saying that, oh, we need money here. You have to send us remittances. You have to send us our balik box, which is what we call it here, to bring goods back home. But then at the end of the day, they don't think about the well-being of the actual overseas Filipino worker or the migrant worker who's struggling just to put that box together, just to give you money so that your kids can go to school. And I think that we have to look after OFWs because they are the ones who are doing this for us. And by doing that, we have to try to make sure that we hopefully create more livelihood programs here in the Philippines so that, again, they're not going through that separation with their kids, especially at that age, let's say like you, about 2 years old. And I can only imagine having to be away from my that parents at that age because I'm so close to my family, and I think it would be different if my chances were like you and my parents would go away at that age.
Exactly. People think of the distance, the fact that they are apart, but there is a mental aspect to it. There is economical consequences. There are, like this was like family trauma at the end of the day. So
Exactly, yeah. And it's hard to understand until you're at that age where your parents can really talk to you. Like, let's say at 6 years old, my parents didn't explain to me in detail, like why we're packing everything and going there. And my family is here, my friends are here. We had a good life. We didn't have to struggle. So until you're at that age where you can understand, you won't really know. But if you're doing it, let's say over social media or over FaceTime, trying to talk to your kids while they're away, it would be hard to understand as a little child.
exactly. Well, on my behalf and on behalf of so many people around the world, thank you. Thank you for talking about it.
Thank you.
Now, let's go away from the heavy subjects for a moment. And actually, I have a few fun questions for you that I got from my Instagram story. Uh, so these are very light ones and fun ones. So the first one. So Pachi is asking, hey, Queen Justine, what makes you grand?
What makes you grand? So many things makes you grand. I love that people try to incorporate this word now because they see me for that title. But you know, my personality and my heart makes me grand. I try to be as authentic as I can in this journey of mine, and knowing who I am more as compared to when I was in 2015 or 2017, I'm more confident in showing who I am, what I like, and the type of person I am if you are my friend or my family member as well. And I think that's what makes me light. And I always just try to look on the bright side of things, which is really helping me along the way.
Very nice. Next question. So Gio is asking, since June is Pride Month, what is your message to your LGBTQ supporters?
I have so much love for the LGBTQ community because, of course, in this pageant, a lot of my team members, they have helped me grow. They have helped me show what loving yourself is like, no matter what people say. And I honestly can't do it without them. So thank you so much for your courage, for your love and support, especially in pageantry, because you have definitely given us so much confidence in going on that stage whenever you root for us. But keep doing you, and hopefully that you keep shining in what you do.
Yes, love is love. John is asking us, if you win the MGI crown, so Miss Grand International crown, what will be your biggest strength and what will be your biggest weakness?
Well, if I win the MGI crown, you know, the reason why I really wanted to win MGI as well is because they have that advocacy or platform of stop the violence and war. Of course, it's such a big topic, but for me, I really want to relate to my advocacy of OFWs and how we can help migrant workers as well. So I think in terms of that, I would be able to work with them in that aspect. And of course, having lived the best of both worlds, I'm able to share different cultures and what I've learned as a Filipina and also growing up abroad, which would make it easier for me to travel abroad as the MGI representative as well. And for my weakness, I don't really see them as weaknesses because, you know, I like to take everything as I go and learn from them and how it can be better. So hopefully throughout my journey, if I win MGI, I'd be able to take so many of the lessons and help me become better as well.
Very nice. Now, last segment of the interview, you know, I feel like very often and understandably, us as fans, we like to just send you so many questions for the beauty queens and just, you know, like try to challenge you when it comes to certain subjects and this and that. So I have a section that is actually quite the opposite. It's called irrelevant questions, but beware, there is a lot of meaning for these questions. So I will be judging you based on these ones. Okay. There's only 3 of them. So.
That makes you a little nervous.
First of all, Ariana Grande or Mariah Carey?
Oh, that's so hard. I love them growing up because I love to sing karaoke. I mean, what Filipino doesn't? But I have to say Mariah Carey because she is the OG and she is what made me love music so much more, and belting all those whistle tones and high notes. Yes. I really want all my neighbors with that, but you know, I love music because of Mariah Carey.
Definitely the right answer. What is your favorite Mariah Carey song, if I can ask you?
Through the Rain. Because in grade 7, that was our song to sing. And I feel like that got me, it's a really deep song for grade 7 to listen to. But I continuously listened to that every day when I was going through tough times, and knowing that I was able to go over it, just that message itself. And it's also really fun to sing.
Very nice. There's, you know, that was the right answer. I can tell you that for sure. So next one, Tim Hortons or Jollibee?
Ooh, these questions are so tricky. I love both, but I have to stick true to my roots. I would say Jollibee. I'm so sorry to my Canadians. You know what? Growing up in Canada, that's the only thing I crave for is Jollibee. And it's so weird because every time I go back home for vacation in the Philippines, when people would ask, "Oh, where do you want to go? What do you want to eat?" Like out of everything, I would say Jollibee all the time because I feel like I've been so deprived from it growing up. And
Oh,
it just really reminds me of my childhood. But luckily, here in the Philippines, we also have Tim Hortons. So I can have both whenever I feel like I miss Canada. I have that. And then, of course, Jollibee is always around the corner here.
well, I can tell you that Justin Trudeau has left the chat for sure.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, but I gotta stick to my roots.
Sure. Last question. Celine Dion or Regine Velasquez?
Mm, they're both so good in terms of the way they sing, but I grew up listening to Celine Dion. You know,
Mm.
my parents would always blast the radio, and it would always be Celine Dion, like back in her days when she was still doing Because of You,
Oh,
or
yes.
I think that was the title, right? And that I swear I remember A to B side of the tape. And she's still so popular right now, you know what she does. And I think she paved the way for so many singers, especially the Filipinos as well. So, but
Exactly.
I love them both, don't get me
Love
wrong.
the quote. Absolutely. And here in Canada, it's like if you don't like Celine Dion, I'm pretty sure that's the reason for them to throw you out of the country. Because Dion is like the queen right here, especially in Montreal, like in Quebec. She's from here,
Mhm.
so like she must be celebrated
Exactly.
at all
Yeah.
times.
And I think Regine Velasquez also kind of sounds similar and the way she sings. But if you actually hear about Regine Velasquez's story, you'd be so touched as to how far she's come and how much she trained just to be that singer that she is now.
Justine, this is pretty much the end of the interview. But before I let you go, I wanted to give you a moment for you to address the audience. What is
Mhm.
something that you would like to tell the people watching you, the people rooting for you, and what do you want them to remember from you?
Maayong adlaw sa inyong tanan. I just wanted to say thank you, Lewis, for giving me this opportunity to talk about my journey, my advocacy on your platform. I'm super, super thrilled about that. And thank you to everyone who has supported me in Davao del Sur, all my supporters here in the Philippines and abroad as well. I know that it has been such a long journey, but the fact that you have stayed with me all throughout 2015 up until now, I am so blessed and grateful for you guys, especially throughout the challenges that I've been facing recently. I know that you guys have sent me your wishes and that you've prayed for me. So that I'm super grateful for. And I hope that you guys remember me as a fighter because I promise I will fight until we get the crown for the Philippines and hopefully internationally, I'll be able to represent you. But I just want to say thank you. And I have so much, so much love for you. And I hope that you continue to support me and throughout my whole journey.
Oh,
Thank
it's a
you.
standing ovation. Everyone stand up. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you here and to be able to talk to you one-on-one. I can tell you from the perspective, not only as a vlogger, as a YouTuber, whatever, but as a fan, we are rooting for you. We love you for who you are as a person, what you bring to the table, and the things that you have been able to accomplish. You know, thank you for everything, and we just hope that you're able to go as far as you want to go, and that all of your projects, all of your dreams, they come true. And we're just here rooting for you and enjoying the journey with you.
Yes, thank you. That means so much to me. And I'm so excited to keep on sharing what this journey is about for me. And hopefully, when I win an international crown, that I'd be continuing this journey with all of you guys.
One last thing before I let you go, because last time I did this, my audience, they almost like punished me. I have a tradition on my channel. I every single time that I finish a video, I give a hug to the camera. That is like my virtual hug to them. So we have to do
Okay.
it. So when I
I'm
say
all
three, we give a hug to the camera, okay?
okay.
All right. One, two, and three. Here we go. Oh, thank you for coming.
This is our first hug. Mwah.
We love you and we'll be watching, okay?
Thank you so much, Lewis. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Bye.